By the mid-2000s, Naughty Dog had become a well-renowned studio, with its work on the Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter series on the PS1 and PS2 respectively. However, after Jak 3 wrapped up development, they decided they wanted to create a brand new IP for the upcoming PS3 that aimed to use the power of the new system to its fullest under the codename Big, and was to be directed by Amy Hennig, who previously worked on the Legacy of Kain series as a director and writer, till joining Naughty Dog as the director for Jak 3. She would go on to direct and write the rest of the PS3 trilogy before leaving the studio in 2014, and is currently working on the upcoming Marvel 1943, a game I forgot existed honestly. I don't even know what kind of game it's supposed to be. Eventually the game will be named Uncharted, and revealed at E3 2006, with many comparing it to Tomb Raider, giving it the nickname of Dude Raider. The game will be released in 2007, with glowing reviews and winning several awards, thus kicking off this long-running series that will last a decade, and become a hallmark in PlayStation's history.
Subway, where winners eat. Ow!
I was first introduced to Uncharted with a demo of what I think was Uncharted 2, I don't remember, it's been so long, at one of those old Walmart demo kiosks. You know, the ones where they have the monitor way above your head so you gotta look up towards the ceiling, which ends up hurting your neck after a few minutes. Yeah, very uncomfortable, but I don't know, kind of nostalgic in a way. But my first proper experience with the series would be with Uncharted Golden Abyss on the PS Vita. The original PS3 trilogy would get a remastered collection for the PS4, dubbed the Nathan Drake Collection in 2015, handled by Blue Point Games, and this is the version I'm looking at, and for the rest of the trilogy, when I get around to it. The only thing this collection doesn't have from the original PS3 release is the six-axis controls, which I say is for the better because I don't like the PS3 controller, but that's for another time, and the online multiplayer for 2 and 3. Uncharted is a series I do generally enjoy. In fact, many of the games are some of my favorites of all time, like Uncharted 4 here. I think it's the peak of the series, and maybe my favorite game of the entire franchise. After playing through Uncharted 4 and playing The Lost Legacy for the first time, I had the sudden urge to go back to the original Uncharted. I haven't fully played through the first Uncharted in over a decade, but after playing through the first hour, it did take long for me to remember that I think Uncharted 1 is easily the worst game in the series. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, I wouldn't say there's actually a bad game in this entire franchise. Uncharted 1 is just the weakest, and playing it right after 4 was a very big mistake on my part because, my god, some things have not aged all that well. It's very much another case of the first game in a series, where it's the roughest, but every subsequent entry afterwards just gets much better. Like to compare it to another Naughty Dog franchise with Crash Bandicoot, where it got progressively better over each game in its trilogy. But to say that the first game is the quote-unquote worst only means things get better from here, right? So let's begin where it all started, and let's talk Uncharted: Drake's Fortune. Off the coast of Panama, our treasure hunter Nathan Drake and journalist Elena Fisher are on the hunt for the coffin of the late Sir Francis Drake, which Nate proclaims to be a descendant of, despite records stating that Drake never had any children. Nate wants to continue his ancestors' quest to find the treasure of El Dorado, while Elena tags along to film everything for her TV show. The two who find the coffin only discover that it's empty, except for Drake's diary. Before the two can look further into it, they are attacked by pirates, but are saved in the nick of time by Nate's closest friend and mentor, Victor Sully Sullivan. Later at a dock, Sully believes Elena would draw unnecessary attention with her reporting, and Nate hesitantly agrees to leave her behind, with the duo now following Drake's footsteps.
Should have seen that one coming.
Leading to find a maroon Nazi U-boat that somehow landed up a waterfall. Don't ask how that works, it's just adventure movie logic. On board, Nate finds the remains of the ship's crew in a missing entry from Drake's diary, pointing him in the direction of a remote island off the South Pacific. Unfortunately, the two are soon held up by gunpoint by criminal boss Gabriel Roman and his lieutenant Navarro, with Roman stealing the map Nate had and nearly killing him until Sully jumps in front and takes the bullet, presumably dying. Thanks to a torpedo Nate accidentally armed in the sub, it explodes and allowing him to escape, not until coming across Elena, who gives him an appropriate response for abandoning her. This is where we're properly introduced to the game's combat, and man, does it really show its age, as the gunplay is not very good. It feels very floaty, but it is something I did get used to, but I wouldn't say it's all that fun. What doesn't help either is that the cover mechanics are fidgety as hell, since Nate automatically glues himself to whatever object he's close to, and it becomes really annoying trying to unstick him when, say, you're trying to roll out a wave of a grenade. Especially considering that Nate is a glass cannon. It doesn't take much to kill him in this game. I wouldn't call this ball-bustingly hard, but even on normal, enemies can take Nate down rather quickly if you dare stick your head out for too long. There is some fist fighting too, and it's very basic mashing square to win scenario, except for the brutal combo, which I have the bitchiest time trying to pull off. I can't tell if I'm not pressing the buttons fast enough, or I need to time it, but whatever it is, I just can't seem to do it. I don't know. Even then, the only difference when using this combo is that Nate can get more bullets for his gun, which I don't really find worth the trouble. Nate and Elena do manage to use Sully's plane to reach the island, but are shot down by gunfire, and the two are separated on the way down. After a bumping landing, Nate finds himself alone in the jungle, and of course there are more pirates to deal with. And for the first half of the game, I would say the combat scenarios start to get really repetitive, when quite literally every room is just a gunfight. And when you think it's over, more goons decide to show up. You'll be fighting mostly the same enemy type as well, with the occasional shotgunner, and with little to no downtime in between. And when there is, it's for platforming with rather sluggish controls. It's probably me being spoiled by the later games, but Uncharted 1's platforming feels clunky to say the least. If you dare say platform a section too fast, the game usually punishes you with a death. Damn vines and them cutting your momentum for no reason, like what the hell is this? Or hell, you can't even go slow either if you want to. There are indeed moments where I think climbing can be interesting, like with the fort here. I like this sections, vines aside. It's got plenty of nice shots and platforming segments. Though this one section, the temple in the beginning, feels ripped right out of Crash Bandicoot. Seriously, play the boulder chasing music here. It surprisingly works. Nate finds Elena alive and soon stops some pirates from What the hell kind of transition was that? But Nate is imprisoned by an old friend of his, Eddie Raja. And if there's one thing I think Uncharted does well, and this goes across the entire franchise, it's the character interactions and dynamics. Just watching Nate and Eddie interact, trading quips and arguing with one another, is just a treat. Can't forget to bring up Nolan North as Nathan Drake, as I feel he was made for this role, and he only gets better with each game. I want to say Uncharted is where he really took off as a voice actor. He was in plenty of other things beforehand, but I want to say this was like his biggest role at the time. I could be wrong. Eddie's VA is pretty good too. Let's see, who else did he voice? Fucking Dennis? Elena rescues Nate, and the two escape by jeep into one of the mid to late 2000s favorite tropes, the turn section. Though I don't mind this one since it means getting to listen to more of Nate and Elena's dialogue.
We made it!
I can't believe that worked!
So who was that guy?
Just an old business associate. Oh, look out! Oh no!
They do successfully lose Eddie for a bit, and Elena shows Nate some footage of a custom house located in the harbor where all of Drake's ships sank. Nate, however, wants to give up the search for the treasure, believing it's not worth risking their lives over, but Elena insists on continuing. The two have to make it to the harbor anyways, even if Nate wants to leave the island, and oh goddammit, it's the jet ski. This sucks, man. I hate the jet ski. The jet ski's controls is very loose, and the amount of times you have to stop and go is annoying. You can't aim and move at the same time, and pirates must have spilled their explosive barrels into the water because they're everywhere, meaning you have to stop like every other second to deal with either a barrel or one of the many pirates standing on one of the balconies. It's not long, sure, but I don't think it's all that fun. More combat and jet ski riding later, the two find manifestos belonging to Drake's crew, and that's where we learn the ring Nate has around his neck belonged to Francis Drake, dated one day after his supposed death, along with the coordinates leading to his coffin Nate and Elena found in the beginning. Soon they also discover that Sully is alive, working with, what's his name again? Roman, that's right, Roman. It's Roman, right? Elena also loses her camera, which I think was meant to be a bigger deal, but that kind of just comes off across as, oh, well, that happened. Oh well, let's just move on and... Oh god damn it, not again!
Head up to the monastery.
The fucking jet ski, why is it here again? Elena, however, doesn't have her grenade launcher, which she secretly had in the last segment, because I don't fucking know. Instead, a dinky pistol, and now we have to drive upstream with these loose-ass controls. Thankfully, it's the last we'll ever see of this jet ski, thank god. And this is where Uncharted starts to get better. Yeah, this is where I think Uncharted starts to be pretty fun. Sucks you have to go through half the game to get here, but oh, whatever. There's some enemy variety for once, with these mercs with laser sights you have to avoid and enemy snipers. Just generally better enemy variety towards the later half of the game. Weapon variety is also better by the fact you can use a SPAS 12, and I love me the SPAS 12. And visually, I think this is the best looking area of the game. I mean, the game itself still looks good. Most of that is thanks to the remaster improving some of the lighting and details, even if some things still look a bit dated, like the clay-looking character models. But I still think it looks nice. Nate and Elena do free solely, where it's revealed that he survived thanks to Drake's diary, and was intentionally leading Roman and his goons on a red herring, to give Nate some time to catch up. First, we have to solve this puzzle before proceeding, though. By puzzle, I mean just matching the symbols in Drake's diary. That's practically about what all the puzzles boil down to for most of the game. Match the images in the diary and move on. It's pretty brain dead. Nate goes further into the sanctuary alone.
Nate? Be careful.
Come on. I always am. Ah! I did not see that!
Soon overseeing a meeting with Eddie and Roman, and whoever the other guy was. Navarro? Yeah, I think it was Navarro. Yeah, if it wasn't apparent, I think Roman is one of the most generic and boring villains in the series. He's just a standard crime boss who wants to find the treasure for himself, and that's all he really has for him. He's got no real personality, and he's just so uninteresting. Navarro I only remember because he's played by Robin Atkin Downes, which I fucking love that man's work.
Really, Navarro, sometimes I think you left your brains back in that slum where I found you.
How about kill yourself?
Back to the conversation, something else is on the island with them, killing Eddie's men, and Roman just basically tells him to fuck off. Nate regroups with the others, finding the secret entrance to the treasure's chambers, not before getting separated from Sully again. The two do eventually find the chamber, only to find the remains of Francis Drake, presumably never finding El Dorado. Nate is crushed by the discovery, leaving the ring that got him there behind with Drake's remains. But Eddie then shows up running away from these mutated freaks. It's not a treasure hunting story without some supernatural elements. Nate and Eddie attempt to fight off the ghouls, but they soon kill Eddie, and Nate and Elena manage to escape the horde, entering an abandoned Nazi bunker. While exploring the base, Nate discovers that the Nazis have found El Dorado, but the statue itself is cursed, unleashing a gas that turns anyone who breathes it into these ghoulish creatures we fought. Nate realizes that Drake did indeed find El Dorado, but knowing of its curse, he intentionally destroyed all the ships on the island and flooded the city in hopes that it would never leave, and it spread its effects onto the world. Elena is then soon kidnapped by Roman, and they go after the treasure with her as hostage. This is one of the last few combat segments in the game, and I think it's the best and most challenging, juggling between both the mercs and ghoul enemy types, having them fight each other, which is very cool and one of the only few times in the game this ever happens. I think this is where Uncharted's combat starts to come together. A shame it's at the end of the game, but hey, it's pretty good. I actually like this segment. Nate meets up with Sully and the two catch up with Roman, only to be held at gunpoint again. Navarro goats Roman into opening the statue, and he as soon succumbs to the curse, and Navarro finishes him off. Knowing of the curse, Navarro intends to sell El Dorado to the highest bidder as a biological weapon. He escapes with Elena, but Nate manages to grab onto the chopper and force it to crash onto a ship offshore. Now we enter what happens to be, no joke, one of the worst boss encounters I've not just fought in the series, but in video games in general, because this is fucking shit. For one, despite what you may think, you can't shoot Navarro head on, but you have to deal with all his goons, and if you dare say get too close to him, he just one-shot kills you, and you have to do the whole fight all over again. They're also heavily armored goons, making it take longer to kill them and waste more ammo, which is already pretty scarce in this arena, and when you do corner Navarro, You have to approach him a certain way, and only that specific way, otherwise it's a death. And say if you didn't realize you have to move the second the QT is over, that means it's also a death, meaning also having to restart that whole segment over again. I vaguely remember my first time doing this over a decade ago, and I can tell you, it wasn't a fun one. This shit fucking sucks. After saving Elena, Navarro tries to get back up to attempt to kill Nate, but Nate casually shoulder charges the chopper, and thanks to a conveniently placed rope, Navarro and Eldorado fall into the ocean, sinking to the bottom, to hopefully never be resurfaced again. Sully arrives by ship with some treasure aboard, and Elena gives Nate back his ring he left behind. It's a good thing too, otherwise Uncharted 3 wouldn't happen. But that's for another day. The trio leave the island, thus ending Uncharted's story. Yeah, it's a little abrupt, but I guess it's a good thing. And that was Uncharted Drake's Fortune. A game that could have been a lot worse, to be honest. The plot itself is fine, if a little basic, and I do enjoy the characters, but it's easily probably one of the weakest plots in the entire series. The characters do hold up, at least the main trio and Eddie, of course, and it's a rather short one too, only lasting about 5 hours. But given my complaints, I think it's a kind of a blessing. There are some modifiers though you can unlock by collecting in-game treasure, which can either give you new character skins, be able to select any weapon, and even modify certain gameplay features. And wait, what's Donut Drake? Is it just like Drake dressed up as a donut? Oh, Donut Drake, as in...
He's fat!
Despite my issues with Uncharted 1, I don't think it's a bad game by any means. It's still a solid game that has showed its age, but I still think there's merit in playing it just to see how this franchise started. And of course, it's only going to get a little more better from here, as next time we enter the Uncharted universe, it will be with Uncharted 2, Honor Among Thieves. I'm thinking just like 3 for some reason. But for now, I've been Sonic Man, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day, or night, or whatever, and take care.